Hello friends, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a subscriber or a fan, welcome back. Today's topic is the history of speaking in tongues. Today I'm actually going back to the medieval church and we'll go from there. So there's nothing else I need to say, so let's roll. So in this video, I am using Christian sources. The reason being is because one of them is a theological historian from a secular university. The other one is a Pentecostal. And the reason I'm doing this is to juxtapose their positions. I will tell you when I'm using Christian sources. If I do not say that I am using Christian sources, then I am using secular sources. Secular sources are my default. The academic term for speaking in tongues is glossolalia, so I will be using that in this presentation. Christians today, especially in the charismatic movement, consider glossolalia to be ecstatic, mainly unintelligible syllables, and the interpretation of tongues as a gift from God to understand these syllables. Was that always the case? We will first look at what the medieval church espoused was, quote-unquote, the interpretation of tongues. The medieval scholars of the church explained the interpretation of tongues as the interpretation of languages. Hence, they felt that tongues were legitimate languages. They didn't even hint that this gift is miraculous or that people can interpret languages without diligent study and the process of learning, even though they accepted what happened at Pentecost as a miracle. They also conceded that on occasion, God would miraculously give the gift of speaking in tongues to evangelizing missionaries. But bear in mind that these were actual languages. However, these medieval scholars stressed that this gift usually came from learning or time spent abroad. The medieval church also had another understanding of the interpretation of tongues, and that was the ability to explain difficult passages of Scripture. Keep in mind that I do not speak or read Latin, so I am dependent on my source for this information. The copies of Christian scriptures used in the medieval church uses the Latin for the interpretation of words, not the interpretation of languages. The first phrase refers to an interpretation of a discourse delivered for religious instruction, whereas the latter phrase refers to interpretation of languages. By the gift of exegesis, the interpreter would go beyond the literal meaning to the allegorical meaning. In referring to allegory, the medieval scholars meant not fanciful spiritual meanings, but theological meanings beyond the text, such as moral messages or eschatology. Eschatology is any set of doctrines that deals with final matters, such as death or judgment. In regions where the predominant language is English, there is a general lack of understanding of how church fathers interpreted biblical passages that are hard to understand. One of the main reasons for this is that few commentaries on the Bible from this period are available in English. According to Young, glossolalia is devotionally true if the practitioner is transformed to be more like God. It is practically true if the practice embodies God, and it is theologically true if the understanding of the practitioner is attuned to God. In Pentecostalism, there are 3 stages of meaning in glossolalia. Within each stage, there are more and more expectations, such that when you reach adept, there are very many expectations of the practitioner. During innocence, glossolalia is poorly understood and is seen as foreign. The novice would have been introduced to it at some point. If psychological and cultural resistance are minimal, fascination may begin. At this stage, the person is focused on the human aspect of it, even if they recognize it as a manifestation of the divine. After glossolalia initially emerges, the person is raised to the next level, the growth stage. It contains a new set of expectations and meanings. This stage entails a deeper reflection on the experience. During growth, the person's horizons are expanded. Emphasis is on providing a witness to others. The focus shifts to communication and its empowerment. Glossolalia is seen as a prototype for the divine word. When a person advances to adept, they generally also advance in the church to positions of leadership. In this stage, glossolalia serves to give a vision of divine life. It is now seen as embodying unity with the divine. Unlike the medieval scholars, charismatics viewed the day of Pentecost as a paradigm for evangelizing non-Christians. Accordingly, in the early days, many set out for foreign lands with no knowledge of the languages spoken. They trusted God for a miracle. Well, friends, we've come to the end of another video. This one's a bit longer than I wanted it to be. I'm sorry about that. But this is a very interesting topic. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like button, press the subscribe button, and if you would like to be notified when I come out with new content, please hit the bell next to this subscribe button. Links to my Twitter, email, PayPal, and Discord are in the description, along with links to my sources for this video. Question everything and never be afraid. These are a couple of videos from my library. If you have not watched them, go ahead and watch them. Tell me what you think. Also, leave comments in the comment section. Love hearing from you, and you can DM me on Twitter also. Thank you. Bye.